This is the overview for week 2. In week 2, you're going to cover chapters 2 and 3. Chapter 2 is primarily focused on the colonization of the Americas, in particular, what we now call the United States. In this chapter, you also learn about a concept that helped to fuel the expansion from the East Coast to the West Coast. This concept is known as manifest destiny. People at that time believed that they had this God-given or this God-sent message or impetus to move westward and to take over lands that indigenous peoples had been on for centuries, because they believed that indigenous peoples did not understand how valuable the lands were and they didn't know how to use them properly. And so they viewed it as their right, as well as almost a command from God to expand to the West. In addition, this chapter also focuses on the invention of whiteness and blackness. Whiteness and blackness, these two ideas, even today influence how we view the society around us. It's in our language, for example. When we think of something that's good or pure, we tend to think of it as white. Think about how in cartoons or old westerns, the good guys wore white or lighter colored clothing, and the bad guys wore darker colored clothing. We say that there are little white lies, which means the lies that we tell are not too bad, but then there are, dark truths, or film noir, which means dark film, which is, kind of bad, or maybe not evil, but it's not as light and cheery, say, as the other types of films. And even the way that we view people based upon skin color. In most ethnicities, not saying it's right, but in most ethnicities, the lighter skinned you are, the more attractive you are considered to be, and the darker skinned you are, the less attractive you are considered to be. And I'm not saying only white people view others this way, but within ethnic groups, this is often the case as well. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 3, the primary focus is on the civil rights movement of the late 1950s moving through the 1960s, as well as other movements by people of color. So the American Indian movement, the Brown Power movement, the Black Power movement, the Chicano movement, all of these movements that people engaged in the late 1960s. In addition to that, there is a focus on voting and how historically whites tried to keep people of color from exercising their right to vote even after the 15th Amendment was passed, which, if you remember, the 15th Amendment guarantees that every citizen has the right to vote. However, in many southern states, there were poll taxes, literacy tests, etc., all of these designed to keep people from voting. And of course, today we have instances where in some states there are attempts to limit voting on certain days, limit it to certain days, eliminate drop-off boxes, etc., in some ways to make it more difficult for people to get their votes counted. So I hope that you enjoy learning some of the history of how this country's social institutions were created to serve whites and exclude people of color, and how over time these social institutions have been forced to be more inclusive of people of color. But there's always been this backlash, and sometimes the backlash is very strong, sometimes it's much more subtle. So I will see you again next week when I go over the week 3 chapters. Bye.